Welcome to the Eric Squared Circle podcast. My name is Eric Ozio. That is an O and a Z and an I and an O. I'm here with my podcast partner, my proud podcast partner, Eric Robinson. How are you today, sir? Sunday, January 26th, 2020. It is exactly about 6 hours away from the start of the Royal Rumble kickoff show, maybe a little less. I believe they start at 5, but I talk mostly out 7. How are you today?
4 hours and 32 minutes, but who's counting? But nah, dude, I'm fantastic. We have it's obviously Royal Rumble weekend. Especially after what we saw last night at Worlds Collide, we have been just absolutely spoiled as wrestling fans, and I think that that's going to continue tonight. We're obviously going to get into Worlds Collide coverage here in a little bit, but yeah, special shout out to DJ Baezer for the new theme song that you guys heard. If you want to listen to any more of his stuff, the link to his SoundCloud is going to be in our show notes along with the rest of our social media information. Yeah, let's just get right into it, man. Obviously, all go home weeks. We'll start just, with Monday night and kind of, some of the just a few thoughts on stuff I saw. First and foremost, Seth Rollins has reinvented himself in a way that I could not have ever imagined. Obviously adding Buddy Murphy to the ranks last week. Rollins playing this deranged cult leader is just pure gold, man. It's very much a CM Punk-esque reminder of what good character work that Rollins is capable of when he's got the right story and the right people around him. And just the little touches of when they did that opening segment, Buddy Murphy having his hair pulled into the same, man bun that Rollins is rocking now, and Rollins, using the black glove on the right hand and just adding those little details to his character, man, it's awesome. As far as, Rollins and Murphy, obviously, later in the night, they were able to challenge the Viking Raiders. So we do have new tag team champions in Seth Rollins and Buddy Murphy. I didn't see that coming, to be honest. Viking Raiders, I feel like we've been trying to, I feel like we've been waiting for them to have a very solid competitive match that's not just local talent. And I was, as much as I was hoping that they would take the W and continue to retain there, this is a good use of the tag team titles, I think, in this situation. Obviously, with Rollins and with Murphy both being established, single stars. Mm-hmm. To make them a pairing and use those belts in the grander scheme of advancing this storyline. I'm always in favor of when they do that. It's a very attitude era kind of thing. I mean, we've had some odd pairings over the years, especially during that time. Rock and Dude Love, Kane and X-Pac, or not Rock and Dude Love, excuse me, Austin and Dude Love, Kane and X-Pac, Rock and Undertaker, Rock and Jericho. I mean, the list goes on.
Big Show and Jericho. That was always enjoyable.
Yes.
They were the
Big
first
unified
tag team champions, just saying. I wouldn't mind bringing that back. But, I mean, where does this put AOP, Authors of Pain, and all this? They have Buddy Murphy who comes out, very, very soon. And right when he joins Seth Rollins' little cult act here, whatever their names are going to be, where does that put them? And, they're not just stooges. They're not just going to stand by. They were NXT Tag Team Champions for quite some time. And I could see, their former manager coming back and deviating them away from those two. And that could be a potential storyline going forward into WrestleMania. But, obviously going into Royal Rumble, it's an interesting switch up with the Viking Raiders having that tag team for, several months, going well into... I think it was September of last year. I'm interested to see where they're going to do with it. If it's really going to be one of those things, where Seth Rollins and Braun Strowman won the tag team championships, and it lasted a week, 2 weeks. I don't think it'll be like that, but, I can see it, kind of turning in on itself.
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily know what the long-term, play is with this storyline. Obviously, with it still being so new, just kind of being along for the ride of it, which is really cool. I'm not really worried about AOP, to be perfectly honest. This is a great spot for them, and it's the best use of them basically since they've been on the main roster. So even though they were not necessarily made the tag team to to dethrone the Viking Raiders. I do think that, with something like this, as far as this cult type storyline that they're doing here, it has to start from the top. It does have to come from the top down, as far as Seth Rollins being that guy. And I think in this case, you would want him to be the champion here and to hold the gold. And it works because it's something different, and it keeps him away from the WWE title picture, because quite frankly, I don't need to see Seth Rollins versus Brock Lesnar again anytime soon. I mean, if they don't cross paths at all in 2020, I'm fine with that. Certainly wouldn't hurt my feelings. I just think that this is a good way to cool him off, refresh him, and then maybe down the line, whoever takes the title off of Lesnar, could find themselves being challenged by Rollins. And I think that this also gives Buddy Murphy instant credibility. Obviously, we've seen what he can do in the cruiserweight division, but tag team wrestling is something different. And obviously, Buddy Murphy, a former NXT tag team champion, I think the first 2-time, if I'm not mistaken, with Wesley Blake. But that said, I think that this is a great pairing, good use of everybody involved here. I think that we're going to continue to see Rollins become more and more unhinged. What I would hope that coming with that is taking the violence up a notch, more or less. We've seen Rollins deliver curb stomps onto concrete and do all these other psychopathic things. Obviously, we remember the match with Bray Wyatt at Hell in a Cell. But I think that with this Manson family-esque Rollins that we're getting in the Monday Night Messiah, I think that as time goes on, he needs to resort to violence to continue to get his message across, and I think that we're going to see a lot more of that.
Absolutely, and it's just one of the main storylines going on with Monday Night Raw at this time. Seth Rollins obviously proclaiming he's going to win the Royal Rumble. He's going to be the fourth guy to win it back-to-back. That's what he's claiming. I don't believe that'll happen. But, in the other kind of, unfortunately, the main storyline of one of the main storylines of Monday Night Raw is the continuing feud between Rusev and Lana, Bobby Lashley, and now Liv Morgan. In the match, we see that, Liv Morgan there's an intergender match, so take those for what you will. They can be really good, but they can also be really unorganized, if you will. It's because it's kind of weird, because you can't have him go one-on-one at all with that at all. Yeah. But with Lashley defeating Morgan and Rusev, we're at this point, if this is gonna keep going, I don't really know what else. I mean, you can do this intergender thing for a couple weeks, I guess, a month. But I mean, at the end of the day, like, what's the end game? Is it going to be revenge for Rusev and she falls back in love with Rusev again, or is it just going to end with Lashley running away with? It is intriguing, but again, it's like reality TV. It's like, we all love that Jersey Shore stuff in the back, but you grow out of it, you get tired of it, and I feel like that's getting to that point here.
To be fair, Jersey Shore did go on family vacation for a couple of seasons there in the last couple of years.
I'm talking us personally, not them as a show.
I'm just saying that a reunion should not be entirely left out of the equation. I heard at one point in time that was a potential end game for them. But I feel like this is just a weird storyline in that it is so cheesy, it is so over the top, and it's something that clearly Vince is in love with. But I feel like, that love is just kind of, I want to see more of this, but I don't necessarily think that we're getting a clear cut, like you're saying, here's the direction where it's going. And I don't know. I think that this is one that I hope is wrapped by WrestleMania. I whether a match comes out of this, I don't know. That's tough to say. I would hope that if they're going to continue this storyline, that it is done in a way that gets everybody over further. Obviously, Lashley just being who he is setting his position. Rusev and Lana are obviously getting the push after spending a lot of time on the sidelines and kind of wondering when their moment is going to come. But I do worry about Liv Morgan getting lost in the shuffle in all of this. I mean, yeah, she's aligned with Rusev. No, the pairing doesn't make any sense whatsoever. But I think that we're finding ourselves with gaping plot twist of, okay, like, are we not going to talk about, if you're going to go down this route of, having the love triangle and the romance between Lana and Liv Morgan, how about explaining a little bit more of that? It's like the one night in Milwaukee that they tried with Aiden English that they didn't, they followed up on it like basically by saying he made it up, and it went over as well as a fart in church. And I think that we're gonna find ourselves in the same position, and I don't that doesn't do any justice or any service for Liv Morgan, especially knowing that she's made her return.
Right. I mean, that's kind of goes along hand in hand with these layered storyline, feuds. You kind of just shove into that position.
I did like in this tag team match. I'm sorry to have cut you off there. That Liv Morgan hit. I think it was like a drop kick or a Hurricane Rana or something on Bobby Lashley there. I thought, I don't mind
that stuff
when
is good. Yeah, I mean, like,
yeah,
obviously, I mean, and even like you're not gonna see it in WWE, but chicks can take the bumps, man. The ladies can take the bumps from the guys, if they have to.
Candice LeRae and
Candice
LeRae in
LeRae,
PWG.
Yeah, she took a bad bump. Was it PWG or what was it?
Or CZW, one of the two, maybe.
It was a nasty one. But yeah, kind of just going through the rest of the show that was Monday Night Raw. Again, you're listening to the Eric Square Circle podcast. We talk a lot of wrestling, just kind of some filler matches with guys that I do enjoy watching. You had the Eric Rowan versus Jeff Hardy. Obviously, they're just kind of forcing
Matt Hardy.
What is going on? What they're trying to set up with him. He's just a big tree trunk that's going to go at some point. They kind of feel like he's getting the Strowman from a few years ago feels.
Yeah.
And then similar to that, Aleister Black getting fed just a jobber to pin real quick. Clearly, Aleister Black is another guy that's like making his way into a role that's going to be more prominent on the main cards or on any of the shows. I think he's one of their closet secret good, like really good assets to what they have on their roster. And I don't hate them obviously beating them up on some jobbers, because like you need to build a guy's confidence, you need to build a guy's traction. But I think he has some good traction already. I think this could be a big year for Aleister Black.
Yeah, I would definitely hope so. Aleister Black is more than deserving of a hefty push on Raw. Obviously, Paul Heyman is very high on him, and I think that works to his favor. Obviously, Buddy Murphy, Ricochet are among others that are going to receive that Midas touch of sorts on Monday nights. What I think, as far as Aleister Black goes, obviously, yeah, like you're saying, the jobbers. It's nice that he's not doing nearly as much of that. Obviously, the trilogy with Buddy Murphy was out of this world. I think I'd like to see him mix it up with the likes of Drew McIntyre. I think that some matches one-on-one with Ricochet. I think ideally Aleister Black is somebody that would benefit from the Money in the Bank briefcase. I think that he's the first person that comes to mind as far as somebody that you can elevate and give the opportunity to shine. Especially because you can play up the fact that the fade to black can get you like that. And
1 second for the jobber on Monday.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
brutal. That's how you do squash matches. That's how you do that. You have to continue to build credibility for these guys, and that I believe that Aleister Black could take on a Brock Lesnar, could take on a Walter, could take on a Samoa Joe, Kevin Owens. Like I want to see these, because he's got the look. He's different. He's definitely spicier, but He's good moves, good size. Has good ring position, has the ability to work a match with the guy, and the brutality. That's always something that just kind of sticks with me. At least being able to sell
no,
it.
you're absolutely right, and I do see a lot more of that, for Aleister Black, and in 2020, I think that we're really going to see some more great matches out of him. Some exciting rivalries. I would definitely like to see him, mix it up a little bit with Drew McIntyre too. Just kind of thinking of out of the box pairings that we just haven't necessarily seen yet, before.
Yeah. Speaking of Drew McIntyre, he faced off against the RKO man, Randy Orton, on Monday night, just for a filler match, but a good match, a solid match, physical. Again, disqualification usually comes around when Randy Orton gets involved in the match. I don't think it's really going anywhere, but it's entertaining, Two guys that haven't seen really face off against each other at all.
Yeah, and this had kind of started as us potentially seeing a WrestleMania rivalry between AJ Styles and Randy Orton. The insertion of Drew McIntyre definitely was it was different. It was odd, but it didn't necessarily feel forced. Mm-hmm. I like that Drew McIntyre, and he was interviewed about this really recently, saying that he wants to try to put more Drew Galloway into Drew McIntyre, and that really works for him. You can obviously see that Drew McIntyre does have a personality, and he is entertaining and he is charismatic, and I think that if you can add that to a guy of his size and his speed and athleticism and just brute strength, you got a real winner there. I know that we've talked a little bit about quite a lot about the Royal Rumble and what we could expect to see from McIntyre tonight. I hope it's a good showing. Obviously we're recording this on Sunday, hours before the Royal Rumble, so I'm sure that we'll by the time you guys hear this, we'll already know what's going to happen. All I can say is that I hope for a good showing for McIntyre. He certainly is deserving of that, and I think that this is a good way to start to warm him up for WrestleMania season.
I think he's going to be one of the final four guys in the ring at the end. And I'm going to say I don't believe Brock Lesnar will even be in the final four of the match, depending on what it's gonna, how it's seeing, even with him being number one. But I obviously a match to help, like you said, continue AJ Styles and Randy Orton's feud through WrestleMania season. The entire the entire crew, Luke Gallows, Carl Anderson coming out, the OC, to take out Randy. Still fought him off decently well, but McIntyre, I do want to see, and that's the beauty of the Rumble. I love to see guys that I don't get to see too often facing off against multiple different competitors, and what creativity can be built from that. So I'm excited for that. And again, it wasn't a good match, and it always was physical with both of them. I know that we had Ricochet just in a brief segment stand up to Brock Lesnar. Paul Heyman is the best hype man in the business, and proclaiming that it's a spoiler, that we're going to, telling us that Brock Lesnar's win is not a guarantee, it's a spoiler, which I find pretty funny. It's a good way of describing it. But Ricochet he's not scared. I've always been a fan of Ricochet, and like you said, Aleister Black being a potential Money in the Bank winner, I could see Ricochet actually winning that contract, and I think it would actually make sense to make him like a long-time Money in the Bank holder, like call him Ricochet, Mr. Money in the Bank, for months, and like cash it in like Rollins waited forever to do. Like that hasn't happened in years now. A guy's held on to the contract for more than a month, if that, and I like seeing that like what you can do with that run, because it really is like, if you do it correctly, you are going to be the next champion. And I just haven't seen that yet. And I would like to see. I could see either one. Aleister Black, I'd be perfectly happy with winning that contract going forward. But I again, poor Ricochet getting the low blow from Brock Lesnar. Just another potential opponent for Brock Lesnar to take out in the Royal Rumble, or have some team up against him to get his baloney face out of the ring.
Yeah, I think that I think Ricochet obviously is going to be out for Revenge, so hopefully we will get to see him cross paths with Lesnar at least for a couple of minutes, and I mean I certainly don't expect Ricochet to be the one to eliminate him. I mean basically whoever eliminates him, we're looking at his WrestleMania opponent. I don't really want to see a ton of Cain Velasquez in this match, quite frankly. I don't know. I don't necessarily care for I mean, if you're going to bring somebody in on the outside, from the outside world into wrestling to get in the ring, sure, fine, whatever. No issue with that. I just don't want to see him go on to dominate the Rumble or anything like that. I mean, I just think that would be overkill.
Honestly,
yeah,
it would be a slap in the face for Rumble fans and WWE fans, because I do believe like the Royal Rumble in a lot of ways is the Super Bowl, but obviously WrestleMania is the championship of wrestling, but the Royal Rumble being really, in my mind, like
it's the All-Star game.
It's the All-Star, yeah, exactly. It's the All-Star game, and it's the best All-Star game out of all of them, in my opinion, because obviously what we see in football, it's a scrimmage. They don't even try. Basketball, it's a scoring fest with no defense. Baseball is okay. Like I can say the All-Star game, baseball is good, but like All-Star matchup in wrestling, I think is, if you're a wrestling fan and you get wrestling and you understand what it is, like the Royal Rumble is just a ton of fun. It's just a ton of fun. Ton of guys make their moments, and there's a ton of history behind it. And I love trying to. I when people who are wrestling fans, I love going over the entire winning list that I go over with them, like we did in Stump the Smart Glass 2 weeks ago, and I enjoy just talking about it. I just enjoyed certain memories of the Royal Rumble, and it's so many different guys in WWE and the Hall of Fame has made their. I don't think there's a single Royal Rumble winner that isn't or will be in the Hall of Fame. So, but yeah,
Luger, but that's a story for another time. But he'll never be in.
Yeah,
no,
we can talk about that another time.
Yeah, that's fine.
Just Luger then.
But
technically he tied. Yeah. So there's maybe a little article, a little something like, well, you tied. You didn't actually win it, Yeah,
it's like kissing your sister.
I wouldn't know. I don't have a sister.
Neither do I. Anyway.
Not about tying, bro. I'm a winner.
Moving on. So yeah, on to Wednesday night NXT. Obviously, we need to talk about the fact that we have a new NXT North American champion in the Limitless Keith Lee in a clash that definitely is already a match of the year contender. When I watched that match, I would have been totally fine with whoever walked out, with the title walks out with the title, and I wasn't gonna be disappointed at either way. But I still just lost it actually seeing the 3 count for Keith Lee. Even though, obviously you can't count Keith Lee out and no one should have, made you think would they really take the title off of Roddy, before Worlds Collide, before going into that clash with Imperium. Mm-hmm. So for them to actually, do it, just I'm surprised. That was great television, is all I can say.
No, and in watching guys come up through the ranks, a guy like Keith Lee, when I was watching PWG and Ring of Honor, it's really enjoyable to see that, and especially just to do it so well and work a match with another guy that's been through the same thing so well. And you can sell it. Dude, there's certain guys I just like, I just think they're badasses in the ring. They don't take shit from nobody. They don't take no guff, I should say. But they're just the nicest people. You can just tell they're like just the nicest people, and they love what they do. I mean, there's few things in the world you enjoy when you see someone that's truly great and doing what they need to do, and the way he moves, the way he's able to jump off the ring at his 300-pound frame, and having to fight off Fish and the distractions of Fish and O'Reilly and Lee, Adam Cole. So. Yeah, I love all those guys together.
Baby.
It's just great. It's good stuff. So I'm very excited to see what he does here tonight. Keith Lee.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. And I mean, I think that this is I think this is for sure a good time to. You said that there was a rumor that we should probably talk about and get some thought on, especially about the Rumble tonight. So what you got?
Again, I just look at the Twitter sphere while I'm bored on Sundays and Saturday evenings, waiting for my turn at bowling. That they might actually up the amount of entrants to the men's Royal Rumble to 40. Because, even just reading what they said, like, it's not something people dislike because, there's more opportunity for more guys to enter the match and in more possibilities of creative traction, creative ability to build into more WrestleMania. And that also might be a fact that they don't have necessarily as many feuds built up to this point, so having more options there after the Rumble is done, depending on who eliminated who and what happened exactly in it, could build for more actual matches for a good WrestleMania card.
Yeah, I mean, I don't dislike the idea of 40 participants either. I don't know. I mean, we've only done it once, and I think it was more just that I wasn't crazy about the winner that year that kind of soured me on the match as a whole. But that's a little short-minded of me. Yeah. If we're being honest, but I do think that this time around 40 is appropriate, simply because they got one of the deepest rosters in wrestling right now. I mean, there's more than a few people that deserve an opportunity to shine in that match and in that environment. And I think that, especially if we can continue to get NXT involved, especially just because, again, Survivor Series, it worked. Everybody's in town already for Worlds Collide. So you've got, NXT and NXT UK, performers. I mean, we could obviously, we could see Walter making a Royal Rumble appearance. I mean, after the monster, win that they had last night, and we'll go, into that into more detail here in a bit. But, Walter, Matt Riddle, Pete Dunne, anyone in the Undisputed Era, Matt Riddle, Keith Lee, probably said all these same names, Travis Banks, Tyler Bate, Trent Seven, Flash Morgan Webster. I mean, the list goes on.
Bro Riddle and freaking
the Broserweights.
Broserweights, dude. I'd love to see me some Broserweights. And by the way, we're gonna see some the finals of the Dusty Rhodes Classic when the Broserweights take on. Who are they again?
The grizzled young veterans, James Drake and Zach Gibson.
Their exchange with Kathy Kelly and out there at the UK, the Worlds Collide event, and
they were blunt.
Bro Riddle's like, look at my partner. He's smiling ear to ear. He is so happy right now for this opportunity, and obviously Pete Dunne's just completely
on the inside.
Like on the inside, he's extremely happy, and and everyone's just chanting bro. I mean, how do you not just love some Bro Riddle, Matt Riddle, man? It kills me.
Right.
And such an odd pairing. Such an odd pairing, and I love it.
Exactly. That's why it works, is that they are so unalike that it's easy to buy into them because, obviously Pete Dunne being the straight-faced, the straight man in this duo, and Matt Riddle kind of being the just, devil may care, laid back, that just the bro. That's what he is, and it works for them. I mean, obviously the name is great, the Broserweights, and the thing is they're both just unreal in the ring. So obviously when you've got that kind of chemistry and then that ring prowess, that's a force to be reckoned with. And quite frankly, as far as Pete Dunne goes, other than putting him into an NXT Championship match with Adam Cole, kind of going into WrestleMania week this year, there really isn't a ton left for him to do, at this point. Obviously, longest reigning NXT UK champion in history, and everything that he's done, over there and in various tournaments. I mean, you name it, he's done it. So to take some time to take a breather and run through the tag team division, I'm all for that, man. I mean, there are more than a few teams that would benefit from the rub of being in the ring with guys like the Broserweights. And that's not to count out Zach Gibson or James Drake. I mean, they're definitely one of my favorite tag teams in NXT UK right now, alongside Mark Andrews and Flash Morgan Webster and Mustache Mountain. I think that, this will be a great outing for them. Obviously, they were the first NXT UK Tag Team Champions. So there's a lot of prestige in this match. And obviously, whoever wins this goes on to face Bobby Fish and Kyle O'Reilly, who I really want to talk more about once we get into our Worlds Collide recap. But yeah, tag team title opportunity against Undisputed Era, probably take over Portland.
That's what I said. Yeah.
I think that this is the right time for the Bruiserweights. Pete Dunne's had some history of trying to win the Dusty Cup, and I think this is the year that he finally takes it.
Yeah, and that name is just so perfect. Like,
yeah,
it makes me. It's funny. Makes me laugh.
Makes you smile.
Makes me giggle. A couple non-title or just kind of idle matches. Shayna Baszler taking on Shotzi Blackheart. Also with Finn Balor back in NXT, taking on Joaquin Wilde. Another match we had, Io Shirai versus Toni Storm. Toni obviously had faced Rhea Ripley last night and had been defeated by Rhea Ripley. But we did see that match, some good C+, B- matches that I like to say. And it also very interesting to see Shayna Baszler without the championship. She had 416 days, I believe. Just doing. It's interesting to see her still in NXT, because typically people like that, they had a championship like that in NXT, they would have made an up move to WWE's SmackDown or Raw, or now a lateral move. But since it is a lateral move, keeping her on there and maybe getting another opportunity, the NXT Women's Championship would be best in her best interest.
Yeah, I mean, and yeah, you're absolutely right. I still think that there's a chance that we see her, in the Rumble tonight. Whatever happens. I mean, I think that, she's more than deserving of getting the win should they decide to go that direction, simply because, again, she was in the main event of Survivor Series and, flattens Becky Lynch, putting her through an announce table. I don't see why you can't continue that feud going into WrestleMania, especially because, Becky basically at this point is fighting to get to WrestleMania and be able to say, hey, I went from 35 to 36 as Raw Women's Champion. Obviously, she's got a tough test coming up against Asuka, and we've seen how personal that rivalry has gotten. We've seen them playing up the fact that Becky has not beaten Asuka in one-on-one competition. And I think that that's really gotten into Becky's head. So if she can pull out the win here, I would anticipate that she does. It really would only be fitting that Shayna decides that she is the next. Obviously, if she were to win the Rumble, being the next contender to take her on. Something else I think that we have to talk about and really haven't done a ton of is there's still the possibility that Ronda Rousey shows up tonight. There's a very real possibility of that, I think. And I think that...
And actually enter this time. And not just show up at the end of it.
Yeah, and I wouldn't put it past them to save the return for this type of moment. I mean, Ronda Rousey's not somebody that you can just, have bring back on Monday Night Raw and, just kind of without a whole lot of fanfare. But, Royal Rumble, I think that, we're in for some shock and some awe tonight, that's for sure.
For the Women's Royal Rumble, I mean, I could see, we haven't really talked too much. We talked about it pretty good at our last show. But, we haven't really selected who we think could potentially win it, because I really feel like it is a pretty open field, unlike what the men's is. Shayna Baszler could be that. I could see her potentially winning the Women's Royal Rumble. I could see a Charlotte, a Bayley. I could see a Sasha. It's really kind of up in the air.
I can't get behind a Charlotte Royal Rumble win this year. I'm sorry, I just can't. I mean,
don't apologize to me. Apologize to the Queen. To the Queen, Eric. You're disrespecting the Queen.
Mrs. Andrade, there's really no hard feelings against you. I like you. Don't get me wrong. However, 10-time women's champion has, it'd just be the rich getting richer, I think, to put her in that position. I don't necessarily think that she needs, that the rub that winning the women's Rumble, can provide. And I think that, with this match still being, relatively early in its infancy, they should take every opportunity to use this to elevate somebody that is, that but I don't want to say, somebody that's deserving, but
Right.
to elevate, somebody that could really benefit from that rub, and there could be, a transition from a mid card to a main event type scene.
I believe my prediction was Alexa Bliss 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
I don't know if
it was.
Did you pick one?
Yeah, I said Shayna Baszler if she's
That's right,
if she's in,
That's why I thought
if
Shayna
NXT
too.
is involved in the Rumble, Shayna Baszler.
Oh,
I'm going to say, if NXT is not involved, I agree with you that it'll be Alexa Bliss.
Miss Bliss. I still see her, and I'm just like,
she's a good sister.
Miss Bliss. Just love it. Yeah, just it's a pretty solid show overall with NXT this past week. Mostly excited, it seems, with mostly the Dusty Rhodes Classic leading up to that, the final of that. And I think, obviously, what happened last night at Worlds Collide is going to build a lot of different things going into the show. But I was hoping we can start talking a little, if you're feeling up to it, on its rival on Wednesday nights, the Wars.
Well, I'm always up for
the Wednesday Night Wars of the AEW cruise, if you will. They were coming to us live from NASA in the Bahamas on a cruise, the Jericho cruise.
The Chris Jericho, Rock and Wrestling
Rager. We had a lot of really good matches. I'm not going to lie. I don't even know where to begin.
Well, I'm going to begin by saying this. I'm going to ask you this is what I'm going to do to kind of start this off. Do you think that Vince and Triple H are kicking themselves for saying that Jericho could not have NXT talent for his first Rock and Wrestling Rager?
I mean, they literally do. I mean, guys that were in NXT. So, like, maybe they are. Maybe they are kicking themselves. I think they are. It's hard to say. I mean, I think they are concerned about what's going on with AEW and what they could potentially do just in 4 months, and how they're already re-signing them to 5-year contracts. The ratings are like already through the roof. Like, despite what they may say in terms of attendance, they're still like selling out over 75% of their shows. Revolution's already sold out, and they just need, the main thing is just continuing to build their roster and find talent just like WWE does all over the world. And they can do that.
So that's not quite where I was going with that.
Go for it.
The very first Rock and Wrestling Rager, Chris Jericho reached out to Vince and Triple H and asked, hey, can I have, can we use NXT on this cruise? And they said no. So what does he do? He goes and gets the Young Bucks. That friendship forms, and now we've got,
forms.
Now we've got, yeah, it happens there. Whatever. Yeah, that. So we get that relationship, and now we've got, obviously AEW doing their thing. But yeah, no, this was really cool to see, to see them take this yearly cruise and kind of step outside the box of traditional wrestling, and reminds you a lot of the old WCW shows in Panama City Beach.
Yeah, and like,
and just kind of that live environment.
Not more than like 2,500 people. That's like a pretty small crowd, but you get it impact. Like,
it's a rabid, loyal crowd.
Compacted crowd that are just like are drunk and having a hell of a vacation, hanging out with their favorite wrestlers. I mean, what can you ask for more than that? And like, the wrestlers were working, but they also get to be on vacation. The talent. So definitely an interesting concept, and I can't wait for what they're gonna do next year. I know you and I really want to go. Still, on the fence myself. I'd love to go. That's not the issue. You know what the issue is, but money always. But it would be an amazing experience. And you said your friend was there, getting all kinds of crazy pictures, having a good old time.
Yeah, man. I mean, and like you were saying, before we got started, this is like a vacation to them too. To be able to just kind of relax and do something different outside of the traditional confines of traveling and everything that comes with being a wrestler. So to have this, extended fan interaction and, by all accounts, it seems like it's just a really cool event. And, it's good that we're not hearing any stories of people just, being jerks on these cruises or being disrespectful of people's, time, especially, being in such close proximity to all these people. But yeah, there's just there's a sense of camaraderie that comes with that type of event. Seeing John Moxley, singing "Sweet Caroline" in karaoke, and that video going viral. It's just really cool that there are those moments that people, they won't forget them.
I'll tell you what, though, if we are able to go next year, that would be pretty fun to go ahead and record an episode on the Rock and Rager.
Who knows? Who knows, man? We just might be able to do that.
What we could do there and see what we can do, who we could talk to, when my mouth just salivates at the idea. It's just ridiculous.
Fingers crossed.
That'd be crazy. It'd be crazy.
But anyway, moving
on. It was
a
big turn of events. We saw that Adam Hangman Page and Kenny Omega faced off against SCU for the Tag Team Championship, AEW Tag Team Championship, and quite a match, I must say. I really enjoyed the whole match. It was very entertaining, classic tag team match where, the tags are very all over the place, and you never know exactly who might be the legal man, with a very surprise ending that I'm very happy about, actually.
Yeah. You done?
I'm done.
Okay. So to see, Paige and Kenny Omega, obviously new AEW Tag Team Champions. Really quite a turn of events. I mean, this is, first title change in AEW history, first and foremost. But, this was cool. I didn't necessarily think that this is a change that they would make. But it is a breath of fresh air of sorts for both Paige and Kenny Omega. Paige hasn't necessarily been used in quite the way that I thought that he might be when AEW first hit the airwaves. Mm-hmm. But I think that this pairing with Kenny Omega, the fact that they're both trying to get right in 2020 and be in a position to climb up the AEW rankings and continue to improve those win-loss streaks. This is a good way to do it. I mean, obviously, I think that having the tag team championships, has given them a renewed determination, sense of purpose, and everything that kind of comes along with being in that championship spot. The real question now is, obviously, we did see some interaction with our new champions and the Young Bucks, as the show went on. When do you think that we're going to see the Bucks finally challenge for the AEW tag titles?
Revolution. Really kind of a lackluster end for SCU in terms of the reign. Only one defense on a pay-per-view. Kind of just fell out of irrelevance, unfortunately, in terms of the booking, which I think they can get back, and they'll be fine. But, yeah, I mean, it's well overdue for the Young Bucks to have a championship match, and it really just depends on me whether they're going to be trying to get that championship within the Elite or if they're going to wait for them to get their run and take some, get that opportunity, because the Young Bucks have been winning matches lately. And, if we go off of, your record, that's what they're saying. That's what the bastard keeps saying. It's about the record. Are they going to get that opportunity, and who against? And are they going to go down the route of where it's going to be a civil war, which I could be down for that. Civil war in the Elite. They'll come back together. It'll be all right. It's all about the championship, man. It's all about the gold.
Yeah, and I think that you really hit it on the head there. I mean, obviously, there's nothing wrong with teasing a little dissension in the ranks. I mean, we're seeing that on the other show on Wednesday nights as well, which we'll obviously come back to in a little bit. But for there to be a potentially a match between, Kenny Omega, Hangman Page against the Young Bucks, obviously that's must-see television there. I think that, the Bucks are certainly trying to do their best to, not book themselves in that position, quite yet. I know that, obviously they've got a say in their creative, but the buck does start and stop with Tony Khan as far as, final word on things, which is, I think that that's beneficial to have somebody kind of at the top that's, not a wrestler, having the final say in making decisions, especially when that guy's also writing the checks. So, yeah, I would hope, sooner rather than later the Bucks get their opportunity. I'm not saying that they have to win it their first time out or anything like that, but I think that they've done more than enough to put people over and to show why it is that they deserve that shot.
Yeah, excellent start to the weekly programming. Another great match was the the 6-man tag match between the Inner Circle and the Jurassic Express. Really, Jericho just somehow has simultaneous rivalries with multiple different factions and superstars all at once, and he can keep them lively and relevant all at the same time. The man is a genius. And, when we saw Jungle Boy survive a 10-minute beatdown from Jericho, le champion, it kind of puts a stick in his craw, and he's just like, what? What is this? No, this team is not going to take care of me. We're going to continue this problem. And they ended up defeating Luchasaurus, Margo Stunt, and Jungle Boy. Despite a hard-hitting match and an entertaining one where Ortiz got his face rhinoceros
just rocked,
into the ground. I think he was done after that. But, watching Margo Stunt just get tossed around is pretty entertaining, but also seeing him just get destroyed is maybe equally, if not more, entertaining.
He sells well, man. Obviously, this pairing and adding Margo Stunt to Jurassic Express, I mean, it's just... It's very, very good stuff. A couple of points I do want to make. First one is I would be remiss if we didn't talk about the fact that when Jericho made his walk, that entire, everybody on that cruise is singing along to his theme song that he wrote, that he uses for his wrestling character as he walks out as world champion to wrestle on a cruise that he started. That's GOAT status stuff. I mean, if you would have told me that Chris Jericho would be doing this at almost 50 years old and making it look good in the process, I wouldn't have believed you. And to have watched, because that's not, seeing them sing along to Judas, I've not seen that anywhere else. I mean, even when I went to All Out, that wasn't the crowd wasn't doing that. Mm-hmm. But to have seen that happen the way that it did, it was just one of those holy cow moments that just I don't know. It's legendary.
The man,
it's legend. It's legend. Wait for it. Dairy.
He is the 66-minute man. He is the greatest superstar to never win the Royal Rumble. He is the greatest, period. And he's. I'm going to miss him tonight, big time, because last time he wasn't it. 66-minute man! In there for over an hour.
To be fair, Curtis Axel is still in a Royal Rumble. Just saying.
Break this down for me.
It's been a few years now, but just saying.
Which one was it?
So, you know what? This is going to require
break off for
the
just a
assistance
second
of Google.
Here,
I'm going to... Yeah, let me look this up here.
We have our computers.
I'm gonna Google Curtis Axel still in Royal Rumble.
Okay.
And see what comes up.
So technically, whoever the winner of that is can be the questionable non-winner. That Curtis Axel still needs to be eliminated from that actual match. They have to go back to that city, back to that ring, and have Curtis Axel eliminated for him to be the actual Royal Rumble winner, whoever it was. What year it was.
Yes, the 2015 Royal Rumble, obviously, Roman
Reigns isn't a true winner. Roman Reigns did not win the Royal Rumble, everybody. Let's just put this out here now.
He was attacked by Eric Rowan, never being eliminated. So, 5 years later, that's a record there, buddy.
66-minute man, okay? Don't talk bad about
the 5-year man, buddy.
is he, Curtis Axel.
It hits the ear wrong. I know, but whatever. What's up?
What is Axel man even doing these days, Mr. Perfect Son?
So he was on the when I went to the house show day after Christmas this year. Yeah, B Team fought. I mean, that's the last time I've seen him is there. So just working them live events, I guess.
Gotcha. Well, going back to AEW, there again 2 excellent matches we've already kind of talked about. We have what you proclaim to be the greatest heel in wrestling right now, MJF taking off. Yeah, Maxwell. Jacob. Yes, Friedman. Taking on Joey Janela.
I was gonna say it.
Oh well, I took it before you. Sorry about that. Bad boy Joey Janela taking on Mr. JF. Get it? Yeah. A solid match, and then you'd love it to see. I mean, my favorite part was the end. Not even trying to be sarcastic about it, but I mean, it was pretty entertaining.
Hey everyone, thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Eric Squared Circle Show. If you liked what you heard, take a quick second to leave us a review, and if it's a 5-star, we'll read it on the air. We really want to hear from you guys, so if you have a question, trivia, interview ideas, or any other suggestions, we want to hear them. Shoot us an email at ericsquaredcircle@gmail.com. And don't forget, you guys are the reason that we do this show. It's the ultimate show by Smarks, for Smarks, so what's not to love? Let's keep the discussion going on Twitter using the hashtag E2SC, and join our server on Discord. Last but not least, subscribe to our YouTube channel and make sure you turn on notifications, because you'd be crazy to miss anything it is that we're doing right now.
I do have to say I feel terrible for Joey Janela knowing that Penelope Ford is now hooking up with Kip Sabian. Just saying.
But that's how you do a proper, like, none of this Lana. I mean, granted, I will say that marriage segment was actually quite entertaining. It was pretty funny.
Because nobody thought that it would get that over the top.
Yeah, and that's why it had to be over the top. But like this
happened a month ago, and we're still talking about it. Just saying.
And this is with Penelope Ford providing a distraction to Joey Janela because she broke it freaking heart. I understand. Yep. I understand, man. It hurts. It hurts a lot. But you'll get through this.
Love hurts.
It hurts. It's the worst. It's the worst. I'd take a broken ankle, a smashed finger in the car any day. But you'll get through this. And you're going to get better because of it, bad boy. I feel
Crank up some Lizzo,
I feel your pain, bro. I feel it.
Crank up that Lizzo.
She'll get you through the dark times and the light times. But yes, MJF eventually defeating Joey Janela due to the distraction. And we got to see the Young Bucks come out and throw him into the pool. Well, suplex him into the pool. It was pretty entertaining. I always love seeing them. And they're clearly having a great time. You'd mess with everybody.
Yeah, and kind of, just going back to this, MJF storyline as a whole, obviously there is some hurdles that Cody's going to have to overcome to actually get his match with MJF next month at Revolution. We're going to see, so obviously first and foremost, no contact between Cody and MJF up until the pay-per-view. Cody's got to take 10 lashes on live TV. I think that's going to happen in Atlanta in a couple of weeks. I think that Cody's mom's supposed to be at ringside as well, so obviously, playing up that emotion there too. And then the cage match with the Big Bruiser, Wardlow. This is probably the best piece of long-term storytelling that they've got right now. I think that if you follow Being the Elite and if you've been watching it since before AEW kicked off, you've seen how Cody has brought MJF into the fold and tried to treat him as a little brother figure and doing the mentor-mentee thing. And obviously MJF being unappreciative of that and continuing to talk shit about, Brandy and Pharaoh and everybody else around, Cody's orbit, more or less. And I think that to have gotten to this point and really built a year-long story at this, more or less, This is gonna be great for Cody, great for MJF. Obviously, they're cemented as top babyface and one of the top heels as far as MJF goes. I think that if we're gonna put Inner Circle and everything kind of at a 1A, I don't see why MJF can't be that 1B or that 1C right up there with them.
Right. Really the card, the main event of the Rock and Wrestling Rager at Sea down in Nassau was the Bastard Pac versus Jan Maxley, and just really good match. Someone say not as good as their first. That ended in a draw, but an excellent match. Obviously focused highly on the eye of Jan Maxley, with it being attacked viciously by Le Champion a couple weeks ago. But
you're getting really good at saying that, by the way.
Thank you. They obviously, John Moxley came out at the end of AEW before the Rock and Wrestling Rager that he is going to be in the match because the Bastard just assumed that he is not going to be able to compete against me. And then I love seeing just a beaten down John Moxley. I mean, I feel they may have actually touched on the eye a little too much, not in terms of just making it a point of the match, not to make it so focused on that, but still an excellent match. Of course, the bandage getting ripped off by Pac, and just beating on his eye after getting stabbed by the champion, Le Champion. But really a back and forth match that before the break had Pac really kind of getting at him with kicks and but getting an inside out lariat, just back and forth, very violent. I just still love the DDT even though it's such a basic finisher. I'm all about it, and I'm all about John Moxley versus Jericho here coming up next month.
It's a paradigm shift, not a DDT. Two different things.
No, by Moxley's DDT. They call it a paradigm shift.
Yeah, no, it's paradigm shift. You don't just call it a DDT, okay?
Well, it's just
it's paradigm
it's
shift.
a general name for the move. Like everybody can do a DDT, but his is the paradigm shift. So
yeah, but he puts that little extra stank on it.
He
So
does. He did the little stanky there.
yeah.
Stanky leg.
I forgot about that song.
Heard it last night.
Forgot about that song.
Heard it last night. It was.
Where are you at junior high dance?
No, this annoying bar that I haven't been to in forever. Because my buddy was in my area, so I hung out with him. And stanky leg came on.
Yeah, do the stanky leg. Do it right now.
Stanky leg.
Now.
Stanky leg. Stanky leg.
I see. I can only see the upper half of you anyway. Okay, I'll take it. Oh, you're actually gonna stand up and do. He's literally doing the stanky leg in front of me. Okay, all right. Good for you. Good for you. Just don't fall. You're gonna hurt yourself.
Not that old yet.
You're 30, right?
I'm 30. Yes.
Yeah. Don't fall and hurt yourself.
30 is the new 20 there, guy. Thank you very much. At least that's what people keep telling me.
See, that's what they tell me. I'll find out when I actually turn 30.
Which you will in about 5 months.
Good mathy.
Thanks. But yeah, I mean, excellent show. I am very excited to see. I expected Moxley to win this match. Excellent storytelling, especially around the injury that he sustained to his face. Obviously, an eyeball is a bad thing to injure. Very sensitive. But
you kind of need those.
Seeing two former WWE guys being able to be this influential and entertaining after their WWE careers and thriving, even because of it.
For sure.
It's very entertaining. It's great for AEW because these are two former, WWE champions. One is definitely a future Hall of Famer. Another one is arguably a Hall of Famer because he's a Grand Slam champion as well. Both are Grand Slam champions. in the WWE prior to the 24/7 championship invention. But it's very entertaining to see, and this is exactly what AEW needs to do. Again, I don't think Moxley wins, and we can obviously still talk about this in a later date next month, but I am excited to see this.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously it's gonna be a great match. It's no secret that Moxley and Jericho are quite good friends, outside the ring, and I think that that obviously translates into everything that they do. It's just as far as their timing, their comedic timing, their chemistry. I mean, all of that goes hand in hand. I do think that it's just too soon to take the title off of Jericho. I mean, he's doing some of the best work of his entire career, and I mean, there's no shortage of classic Chris Jericho moments. But yeah, I mean, with what he's doing right now, I mean, there's no reason why he can't continue to be the standard bearer, for AEW. Realistically, I mean, he could be, he could have this title, this entire calendar year, and I don't think that anybody would dislike that. But I think that he's somebody that should at least try to get as close to the 1 year mark as possible. I mean, when you're establishing a new wrestling league and a new world championship that comes with it, obviously the solidarity and obviously everything that comes along with that comes into play and is important.
Right. I mean, and having I feel like you gotta make sure you do it with the right guy to take it from him, because that's super essential.
Yeah.
To who's going to help continue the lineage of AEW and who's going to present it in the best light. I could see Jon Moxley being that guy. I think it's too soon, though. It would hurt the validity of the championship itself. You need to have a strong run coming out with your first champion, and then because it makes the title change that much sweeter. And obviously, it's all based on how the crowd kind of builds. And if you get a guy that's selling out seats, and he's a new entity to or a woman, anybody, then that's going to definitely determine who's going to, change hands with the championship. Late in 2020, possibly. I mean, it could be sooner.
Yeah.
I think I predicted on an earlier show of ours that he was going to lose it this summer, but I mean, you're definitely, you could be right on.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to see Jericho, as time goes on, I think that we need to see him get, a little bit more desperate by the day to hold on to that championship. I don't think that we're kind of at that point now, just based on, some of the feuds that, we've seen him engage in. He's, clearly capable of holding his own, but I think that, based on this rocker gimmick and lifestyle, I mean, it's basically a rocker Ric Flair kind of gimmick where he's just so about the lavish lifestyle and everything that's kind of come with that, and basically basking in and relishing in the success that he's definitely earned. But I think as time goes on, and those lights get a little bit brighter, I think that we will start to see him get a little bit more a little bit more desperate just to hold on to that title and do, win at all costs, if you ask me.
Absolutely. AEW was an excellent show at sea. I am excited to see it this coming Wednesday, along with NXT. The Wednesday Night Wars continues. Going on chronologically with the week that was in terms of the go-home show of my favorite pay-per-view, the Royal Rumble, coming up here in 3.5 hours. I will talk to you on some SmackDown, Mr. Robinson, and I kind of want to just kind of go over the matches really quick and see what was your favorite parts of it. But the match, we have the continuing rivalry of Reigns and the Usos versus King Corbin, and Ziggs and Rude.
Yeah. So obviously and I guess they're calling these guys the Bloodline now, Roman Reigns and the Usos. Okay, whatever, get better. But this was a cool way to open the match. Jimmy Uso taking a pretty bad bump and tweaking his knee. Takes him out for a little bit. So obviously we've got baby faces battling from down 3-2. Obviously, Roman is starting to heat up at the right time, continuing to get and stay over with the crowd. Obviously, this is this was a match essentially to showcase him going into this weekend, if you ask me. But yeah, good match, and definitely it was nice to not have a show start with a promo, and obviously, just kind of getting right into action. Obviously, with the your main event guys, kicking off the show is always nice, and it's just got a different feel on a Friday when you do some stuff like that. So it definitely was meant to showcase Roman, showcase Corbin. Obviously, they've got Falls Count Anywhere coming up tonight, and then going to go on to compete in the Royal Rumble. So obviously a busy night coming for those guys, but it kind of gets them where they need to be going forward.
And we saw, of course, Michael Cole stoking the fires of the women's division, and a brawl breaking out during an interview. Kind of break that down for me. The actual brawl seemed pretty intense, and helps build my the hype train for the Rumble for the women's coming up here soon.
Yeah. Obviously, Lacey Evans continues to do some of the best work since she has made her main roster debut. Continuing to get over and showcase real emotion about stuff that's gone on in her life. Obviously, kind of using the fact that I think it was her father that battled addiction, and kind of how that has impacted her life, along with the tremendous military background that we know that she has. It's really refreshing to see them kind of taking these real life issues and situations and turning them into a compelling storyline, and it's done tastefully. Obviously, that line is a very fine line to do it, if you ask me. But I think that they've really done it in a way that makes everybody look good, and I think that she's gonna have a hell of a showing in the Rumble tonight.
Yeah, and then
yeah, not in the Rumble, but as far as in her title match.
Right on, brother. And we see the meteoric rise continue for one John Morrison defeating Kofi Kingston on Friday night in a match that they probably could have done in their sleep if they wanted to.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that I would hope anyway that this is just kind of a taste of what we're going to get tonight. Seeing these guys mix it up a little bit and seeing what it is that they can do, kind of in the friendly confines of the Royal Rumble, simply because I don't think that they have not been in a Royal Rumble together at the same time. I think that Kofi kind of, got hot and had his Rumble moment and started to do these crazy stunts after Morrison, left. So I'm intrigued to see kind of what happens here and what goes on, but I'm definitely liking this pairing, as far as the New Day taking on Miz and Morrison, and kind of seeing a lot more of that. And seeing where that'll lead.
They're just siphoning they want that heat to go over to the Miz. The Miz was the hottest wrestler 3 years ago, 3 years ago, and really hasn't done a whole lot much lately. He hasn't really been in any impactful matches or storylines that really kind of bring the fans to bay. But I'm hoping this kind of benefits him as well. Missing some Miz. I miss the Miz. I miss some misses. I missed some misses.
Yeah, and I think that as far as Miz goes, it's cool to see this reunion with reunion with Morrison. They're older, they're wiser. They both have had quite a bit of career success since they first got together. I think that now we've got we've got an opportunity here for Miz and Morrison. I mean, I don't see why they can't do a brief feud with the for the tag team titles, even if they don't win them. I mean, it's not the worst thing in the world. I do think that this is something that will just make everybody look good. It's a nice kind of get your legs back under you feud for Morrison, and I think that it's on to bigger and better with these guys. Obviously, Morrison in a Money in the Bank match, Miz in the Money in the Bank match. I mean, I don't see why we can't turn this into a DIY type
pairing.
Yeah, exactly, and seeing what it is that kind of goes down as far as who turns on the other, because I just think that that'd be a great series of matches there as well.
Also, we had the contract signing of what could potentially be the show-stealing match for tonight in The Fiend versus Daniel Bryant for the Universal Championship. What say you, Mr. Robinson?
So, yeah, I mean, and I went back and watched their match at 2014's Royal Rumble. Obviously, these guys have amazing chemistry together, and, Brian has returned to the top of his game, obviously, since, kind of making his full-time return from his concussion symptoms. And finally seeing him, stay in the main event scene and showcase what it is that he can do. Obviously, Bray Wyatt, this incarnation of him is just it's fabulous. If I can steal a word from Vinnie Mac, everything he's doing right now is just hitting on all cylinders.
It's good.
It's good stuff. It's good stuff.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah.
If you want to say it, you can say it.
Good shit.
There you go.
Yes. Exactly. Pretty solid 2 hours for SmackDown. That was the entirety of the week. We went over here just over an hour. I know if you guys don't watch all of the shows, which I understand, that's why we're here for you. We want to go ahead and make sure that stuff is broken down for you, especially leading into major events in the wrestling industry like tonight. And also last night, what we saw at Worlds Collide was quite an excellent program.
Wow.
I had it on actually again while we've been talking here. It's been off for the last few minutes, but what a final match there, the 8-man tag match. Rhea Ripley retaining, I should say, her championship. I love seeing these. I love seeing these. These mixes, Undisputed Era. I just love them.
Yeah. Yes. We going in order, or I'll let you pick where we start, man. I mean, this entire show as a whole was just good stuff. But I will talk about and start wherever.
Oh, you can start just the beginning. We had kind of just a warm up match, if you will. But I love Finn Balor taking on Iri. How do you say his last name again?
Ilya Dragunov.
Sorry, everybody. I don't know everybody.
I think that you need to apologize. I think you need to apologize to Ilya.
Ilya, I'm sorry. My God, I'm so sorry. God.
He means it. He's crying tattooed tears. He means it.
Yeah. Worlds Collide. Excellent. Another excellent takeover, NXT takeover show. Yeah, I mean, Finn Balor back on NXT. I'm still all for it. It's seemingly the best fit for him right now, and I want to see a potential run at the NXT Championship. Him and Adam Cole would be an excellent match. I would love to see it. Pretty solid match to start the card, though.
Yeah, I mean, and like you're saying, Finn Balor, it seems like he's just got a new lease on life. That I just, it's something that I didn't necessarily expect. I mean, obviously, when you have guys that go transition from NXT to Raw or to SmackDown, you don't necessarily think too much about whether they'll actually go back. But I think that this has just been a very natural fit for Finn Balor. There's just this steely determination in his in his presence and in his demeanor that makes him a credible threat. I mean, obviously, we'd like to see him eventually find his way back into the NXT title scene. I mean, even the North American title scene. I mean, Finn Balor versus Keith Lee is a match that you can take my money now for that. But this was a very this was a good way to kick off this show, Ilya Dragunov obviously is getting a lot of attention and deservedly so as far as his work he's doing over in NXT UK. Definitely great opening match, and there were definitely a couple of awkward spots, and that happens. It's just that's life in wrestling. But otherwise, I think it was a very, very servable match. I mean, they've got chemistry that I think that I'd like to see more of in 2020. Obviously, the fact that Worlds Collide felt like a Survivor Series of sorts, specifically for NXT, has me excited about the potential of NXT UK superstars coming over to the stateside and vice versa. I mean, I think that that's a way to freshen up both rosters. And, much like we've talked about before, I think that, adding, some NXT American, performers, to UK on occasion, I think would continue to give it some more exposure and keep everybody on their toes. Especially because NXT UK is one of those ones that I'll just add it to my list of what I watch on the weekend, as opposed to because I couldn't tell you what time it actually comes on. I think it's like Thursdays at 3 p.m, something like that. But I think that it would be it would behoove them to do a little bit more of this talent exchange, more or less, and obviously seeing more of guys like Finn Balor and Ilya Dragunov, squaring off, I think would be, it'd just be great.
He brings credibility with him to the ring. He's not just, he had a legitimate runs in, on Monday Night Raw. So it's like, I love seeing that, and it gives more credibility to the NXT division. It was a good match, some hiccups, but overly dominated by Finn Balor for the most part. Going on chronologically throughout the card, we had a very good Cruiserweight Championship, the newly christened NXT Championship. We see,
thank God they got rid of that purple belt. Yeah,
so we see that Garza coming in as the defending Cruiserweight Champion. Really a good Fatal 4-Way match. Good to see from the Cruiserweights. It was nonstop action, really creative. I really just... I try to pick a guy to watch for just a little bit of time, and it's see where it goes. But going into the match, I had already known who had won. And for all of you who haven't known by now, you should know Jordan Devlin won Cruiserweight Championship.
Hashtag and new.
And new. And new. Yes.
Yeah, no, this was this was a great match. All of these guys, Garza, Devlin, Scott, Banks, big fans of all of these guys. Swerve Scott obviously, came on last year when they were doing the Worlds Collide tournament, where you could earn a title opportunity as far as anyone that you wanted, and that's where we really kind of saw him take off in as far as popularity. He's a guy that I really want to see more of as far as NXT goes in 2020. He's very charismatic. He's great in the ring, and as far as his style, his physicality itself, a very rangy, long-limbed guy, and that really worked to his advantage last night. And again, just somebody that people can really, really get behind. So I'd like to see more of Swerve Scott, and I think that him one-on-one with Devlin a couple of times this year would be really cool too. Jordan Devlin's been one of my favorites since NXT UK kicked off. Just he very much reminds me of Finn Balor, and I mean not just because they're both Irish, but they have very similar move styles, and Devlin is just a dastardly heel, which I love that they're kind of making that a priority in NXT UK to create some just true blue bad guys, and obviously Devlin getting his opportunity was just was really cool. We know that he's got history with Travis Banks, dating back again to the beginning of NXT UK. And Banks is another guy that I've really enjoyed too. Getting his start at Defiant Wrestling, rest in peace, and getting the chance to shine there, and then come over to NXT and try to make the best of his opportunities here as well. He's obviously been bit by the injury bug, which certainly hasn't helped matters. But he looks to be back in full form. And yeah, I mean, Angel Garza is a guy that, I know a little bit about, but I would like to see more of him. And I think that it was cool to, even though it was kind of a transitional move, it seems like I think that, Angel Garza certainly deserves, some more time to shine and some more opportunity in NXT.
Excellent. Yes, absolutely. We saw the return of DIY coming back to face off against Mustache Mountain. Really, really good match. I mean, really just an entertaining, regular old wrestling technique. Very good to see Ciampa fully healthy and back. Whether or not Triple H and the management can make DIY more of a thing, I would like to see that. Because getting back together after all their history is actually kind of satisfying, I will say.
Yeah, it really, really is, because, Ciampa Gargano, this is, one of those rivalries that I think that is up there. If we're looking at, just kind of best friends turned bitter enemies and back again, Triple H and Shawn Michaels, I think, is the best example of that. And the way that this story has come full circle, obviously it stinks that we didn't get kind of that final blowout, that final match that we were supposed to see, Ciampa versus Gargano for the NXT, championship, just due to the neck injury. I think that, the fact that these guys can get back on the same page, I'm not necessarily saying that, we have to have, DIY doing tag matches, every chance that they get. I just think that it's nice that, these guys, if they can at least get on the same page to say, hey, I'm doing my own thing right now, you're doing your own thing right now, that's cool. But, if either of us ever needs an ally, I got your back, you got mine, that kind of thing, I think will work wonders for them. Obviously Mustache Mountain is in their own class as well, just the the pure chemistry that Tyler Bate and Trent Seven have, and really that all four of these guys have, together. I'd like to see, some more one-on-one clashes between these four. Hell, I'd even enjoy seeing a best of 7 tag team series between these guys, because I don't think that, you'll get something different every time that they square off. This was a real technical exhibition that just kind of devolved into a straight up brawl, and a lot of great moments in it. Obviously DIY kind of taking that time to sit on the apron, pat themselves on the back, and clap and cheer, and kind of have that moment of, just being back, joking the way that, they did before Chicago a couple of years ago. Yeah, it was great. I mean, for me, this is a 4.5 star match, obviously, just with what they're capable of doing.
Yeah, it was pretty solid, pretty good. We went on to see Rhea Ripley retain her championship against her rival Toni Storm. Latest chapter was finished up yesterday. We saw that victory. A good match, very violent. But perhaps, it's I got something out of it, but I don't know if it had the payoff that I wanted in the end. But, Rhea Ripley's still new in terms of her championship run, so, still a lot to build down there.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with you. I mean, this was one of those matches where it wasn't a bad match by any stretch of the imagination. I think it's just that these two have had better matches with each other than they did last night. It just seemed like there wasn't, and even because I watched it live last night and watched it again this morning. I mean, obviously, Rhea is a powerhouse and deserves what it is that she's getting as far as this run, with the NXT championship, and we're going to come back to that in a second. I hope that she gets a lengthy run with the title. I don't see why she doesn't, just kind of, with the way that they've positioned her. Toni Storm is a G. Everybody knows that. I'd like to see her stick around the States, for a little while longer. I think that there's, way more, there's way more meat on the bone as far as being, as far as potential rivalries and what she can do, over here on the black and yellow brand. But yeah, this was very much a good, not great match. Again, hats off to both, Rhea Ripley and Toni Storm. Obviously, they give their all in everything it is that they do. I'm not going to say that they don't. I just think that this was kind of a, good, not great. Yeah.
And kind of like to finish, I would say, our program here on Royal Rumble Sunday, I'd say possibly the match of the weekend, probably. One of the matches of the year, A+, Undisputed Era
A+++++.
versus Imperium. If you haven't seen it, you need to do that immediately. If you're not going to get anything else out of this show, watch this freaking fight. We got gold all across both sides. We got UK champion, NXT champion, NXT Tag Team champion. Was at
the waist were a little bit lighter on Undisputed Era's side last week, though.
A little lighter with Roddy losing his North American Championship, but still the prowess is there. The match was freaking fantastic. Give a man down for Imperium. Quite possibly one of the best matches I've seen in a while. 8-man tag team match. Oh my god!
And man, what's crazy is if wrestling matches had MVP awards, Kyle O'Reilly was the MVP of that match last night. Just guy sold his face off at everything.
Going right at Walter, like just punching him in the face and slapping him like Walter, and then just the
and he's taking these chops in the way that he's just crumpling.
Taking the slaps from Walter, the overhand slaps that he brings it down, and the entire arena hears it, whoosh, and he's just like taking it, coming back, giving it right back to him. Adam Cole, just constant feet to the face, constant high kicks. Like that jump for the jump off towards the end of the match, and Adam Cole, kicked him as he came down. It perfectly timed up to when he landed that boot under his chin when he was trying to, bring it down on him. I watched it twice already this morning. Well, this afternoon and one this morning.
Also, can I just point out how Walter looks like a man amongst children anytime that he's in the ring? He is just he's a big boy. That's basically what it comes down to.
That whole match might have built the rumors that I'm hearing about they're switching it to a 40 match just so they can put maybe some of these UK guys in, like Walter. I could see Walter kicking the living crap out of Brock Lesnar in the just to kind of spearhead a beatdown on him and get his ass out early. Like, you're done. You're freaking done.
Walter versus Lesnar is one of those matches that just give it to me now. Yeah, I'll take it. Take it
easy there. Take it easy there, buddy. Take it easy. We don't have to.
Okay.
Take it easy there, buddy. Now.
Sorry, got a little hot and bothered there. Sorry, forgive me. But yeah, I think that we also need to point out, kind of, obviously with Undisputed Era going into this match, obviously losing the North American title and no longer undisputed gold. That it definitely, you could tell. I liked what they had, as far as Roddy, kind of showing that in his face a little bit as they're making their walk. That, very for a second, he kind of just gave a side eye, glance at O'Reilly doing his air guitar with his belt, and it's going to be interesting to see how Roddy bounces back from this, having lost this title, so close to a otherworldly main event match with Imperium, and having to go in and then obviously them taking the L. Obviously, Alexander Wolf, best wishes to him. Obviously, he was knocked for a loop during that match, and it took me, and I guess I don't know why I didn't realize or pay a whole lot of attention to that last night, but just kind of seeing that that kick from Bobby Fish and just seeing him crumple. Obviously, best laid plans. You know how that old saying goes, but obviously, yeah, speedy recovery to Alexander Wolf, but to see Imperium get this win in such a dominating manner, even though they were, down to a 3-on-4
Well, I mean,
disadvantage.
Walter was taking on 3 of them outside of the ring towards the end of the match, and then when Walter got a suplex through the main announce desk, and he still comes back and is able to emphatically pin, I believe it was Kyle O'Reilly. I mean, why wouldn't I think this guy could take on a Bork Laser, a guy that barely wrestles at all? Like, I want to see what you can do with this more of this UK stuff, especially if you're going to start making NXT in terms of a more streamlined 2-hour show every week on a cable network. Why not involve more people for that and see what you can do with it?
Yeah, I mean, obviously this was, for this kind of being the first NXT versus NXT UK show, I mean, top to bottom, very entertaining card. Everything that everybody did to, put on the performances of their careers here. I just, am in awe of the fact that NXT can so continually, deliver at the level that they do, to the point that when there are, NXT and then, the big pay-per-view matches on Sunday, the fact that every single time, the same thought is, okay, everybody else in the Royal Rumble, they've got their work cut out for them to top what NXT did, and it's really tough to use that word main roster. It's obviously a lateral move now. But I do want to come back to this because we said that we would. Obviously, if you have not heard or if you've not watched yet, it was announced by WWE this week that they are going to get rid of the designation as far as the women's championships. So as far as Raw, SmackDown, NXT UK, it's basically, this match is for the WWE Championship. This match is for the NXT Championship. We did hear that for the first time last night as far as the announcement, the ring announcer, for Rhea Ripley versus Toni Storm. What did you think of this? Is this something that you caught, when you did watch it, or for me, I actually had to go back and rewind. I just wasn't thinking about,
Yeah, I totally forgot about it, honestly, when we had talked about it earlier in the week, because it really doesn't register with me that much. Yeah, I didn't really notice it, honestly, watching before her match, their announcements. I think I was, kind of during the entrances, I kind of, multitask, so I'm not really listening to the announcer full time, unless it's, a huge match at a big pay-per-view. I'm like, okay, I'm like, how is this going to go down? But no, I mean, it didn't affect me at all.
Yeah, I mean, I think... obviously, it's. I understand kind of the goal that they have in mind for it. I just think that it's a little. I think it's just going to create confusion. Obviously, when we say WWE Championship match, I mean, when you say WWE Championship, you think of the. You think of the world title, you think of the men's title, and I certainly don't say that to be sexist or anything like that. I mean, I think that it is still very possible to have gender equality in wrestling while still having that designation of this is the women's championship. I mean, obviously, this is a very interesting time, I think, especially because this does come on the heels of Tessa Blanchard winning the Impact World title. Obviously a great moment for her, and I don't take anything away from that, despite the controversy that's kind of come along with it. But I just I don't know. I don't think that they necessarily needed to remove that particular designation, because that's just what it is. It is the women's division. I mean, they're all WWE superstars, but there's a men's singles division, there's a tag team division, a women's tag team division, a women's division. I mean, I don't see how using that clarifier is somehow unequal.
Yeah, me either. I don't really. I can go either way, because at the same time, I'm not going to see you in the same light It's not like I think you're a worse wrestler than, you're quote unquote equal to that level in the men's division. I just see it as like you two could never compete one-on-one. It's two totally different things. Two totally different things. Women's wrestling is totally different from men's wrestling. You can compare them because it's both wrestling, but you cannot compare them in the sense that, what would be this or what would be this? Like, what's the equivalent of Roman Reigns' woman, and could she beat him? No, she would never be able to, ever. That's the whole point of this sports thing. That's the whole point of these, all the things that we see in terms of competition. It's like there is a biological difference in the output and energy and physicality and strength of each gender. That's just, and I don't take anything from women, what women can do. They've clearly proven they are very capable of doing it, but they would not have gotten to what they have done if they would have done this similar championship and saying like it's all the same, because it's not.
Yeah. I mean, and again, I mean, I don't see why it is the women's championship. There are only women that can compete for that championship. I mean, it's not like you're going to see.
They just don't call it the men's championship, They don't call it the men's championship, so why do they have to call it the women's championship to distinct it? Like it's a lesser championship. I guess that's what they're getting at. But I'm like, okay, well, maybe you don't have to call it the women's championship. Maybe you can call it something else, be more original. But calling it the same thing is just confusing, like you said.
Yeah, I mean, it's we'll see how long this lasts. I mean, I could see this just being something that on paper just doesn't last very long. I don't think that it's something that they necessarily needed to do in the first place. I don't think that there's anybody that's out there trying to take that away from them or say that they are somehow unable to do what it is that the men do. I mean, obviously there are plenty of times where the women's matches steal the show that they're on. I mean, that's just that's just credit to the depth of the roster that they have right now. But I just think that this is not a great idea. I don't know. It just doesn't do it for me.
Again, you've been listening to the Eric Squared Circle podcast. I hope you've been listening at least for the last hour or 40 minutes or something like that. At least parts of it. We get some good information out there. It's just mostly opinion. We want to be here for the wrestling fans and for maybe wrestling employees. Who knows? This is a show for wrestling fans, by wrestling fans. Eric Robinson and I are big fans, and we want to let you know, make sure you're watching the Royal Rumble tonight, starting at 5 p.m., pick-off show, and then we're going to have the main card start at 7 p.m., women's, men's Royal Rumble, Universal WWE Tag Team Champions, Tag Team World Championship, all the championship. Let's go. I'm ready to go. Big weekend, my favorite pay-per-view. Mr. Robinson, I hope you have a great week. I'll talk to you very soon.